Hi there, this is Sid, and today we shall solve a SQL problem from StrataScratch. The title of the problem is Bottom 2 Companies by Mobile Usage. It's listed as a medium difficulty problem, and the ID of the problem is 2026. As always, we shall start off by having a look at the input table. There's only one input table called fact_events, and for ease of viewing, we have exported the input table onto a Microsoft Excel file. So here's the input table. It consists of 7 columns and it lists the usage of different customers using either a mobile or a desktop to perform different kinds of events. So the first column is the ID column that uniquely identifies each row of the table. The second column, time ID, is the time when the event happened. The third column is the user ID, the person who performed the event. The fourth column is the customer ID. Customer ID, I believe, stands for the organization from where the event happened. So for example, this user ID performed a message send from a desktop client while at sendit. But that's not of much consequence for us. For us, the customer ID is the name of an organization. The client ID is the type of device from which the action was performed. It can be either a desktop or a mobile. The event type is a type of event. It can be sending a message, receiving a file, receiving a video call, and so on. And the event ID is a unique identifier for the event type. For example, message sent means the event ID 3. File received means the event ID 2, and so on. So I hope you understand what the input table looks like. Before we go into understanding the problem, let me tell you that for the purposes of this problem, this column, the customer ID column, and this column, the client ID column, are of consequence. We will not have to worry about the other columns. Now let's go back to the problem statement. The problem statement says that write a query that returns the list of bottom 2 companies by mobile usage. So these are your companies and these are the clients. So the problem says find out the bottom 2 companies by mobile usage. What does mobile usage mean? Mobile usage means that the client ID should be mobile rather than a desktop. The company is defined in the customer ID column. Mobile usage is defined as the number of events registered on a client ID equals mobile. And then it says order the results by the number of events ascending. Also, in the case where there are multiple companies tied for the bottom ranks, which can be the rank 1 or rank 2 because they have mentioned bottom 2 companies. So there are only 2 possible ranks, 1 or 2. Return all the companies and output the customer ID and the number of events. So again, coming back to this Excel file, the first thing we should do is we should take this table, apply a filter for the client type mobile. So now we have filtered out all the rows that have mobile for a client ID. Now if you see Connectix, it has mobile a lot of times. If you see Electric Gravity, here you have a row with client ID mobile, and so on and so forth. So what we have to do is we have to find out how many times each organization appears in this row and then sort them by ascending order of the number of times it appears. I have already done that using a pivot table. So I just remove the filter and this is my pivot table. What does this pivot table do? So at the top you see I have selected a client ID of mobile. So now we are only talking about the rows from this table which have a client ID of mobile. We have gotten rid of all the other rows. And then in the main body of the pivot table, you have all the companies and the number of times they appear in this filtered out table where the client ID is only mobile. So Connectix has 36 rows in this table where the client ID is mobile. Electric Gravity has 4 rows where the client ID is mobile. So does eShop. Sendit appears 7 times in this table where the client ID is mobile, and Zoomit appears 10 times. Since they are interested in the bottom 2, we see that these 3 are the bottom 2, the ones that I have highlighted in green. There's a tie between Electric Gravity and eShop. Both of them appeared 4 times, and then Sendit appeared 3 times. So this should be our final answer, which it is. If you look at the expected output, the customer ID and the events, Electric Gravity appeared 4 times, so did eShop, and Sendit appeared 7 times. So I hope you do understand the input table, the problem statement, and how we have solved the problem in Microsoft Excel. Now let's try to translate this solution using SQL. As always, for simplicity, I have written the SQL query in Notepad++. That's where it's easiest to see. So we have a CTE defined here, and then we apply a very simple where condition on the CTE. Let's forget all of that. Let's first have a look at the content of the CTE first. Let me copy this CTE and try to understand what this CTE is trying to do. So here we have the CTE. So for simplicity, let me even get rid of this dense rank function and run the code. So this is extremely simple. All it does is for each customer ID, it counts the number of events, that is the number of times that customer ID appeared in the input table where the client ID was of type mobile. So that's all it is doing. Customer ID, count of event ID as events from the input table, which is fact underscore events, where the client ID is mobile, and we are grouping by customer ID. So it lists how many times each customer appears in the input table where the client ID is mobile. Very straightforward. Now we have a rank function here. It assigns a rank to each of these organizations based on the count of the events. So the count of the event is an aggregate function. So you see here within a window function, the order by clause is making use of an aggregate function. So this SQL query will not work without the group by function, even if you take out this aggregate count function. So for example, if I get rid of the count of event ID and the group by function, you see that you would get an error because I still have an aggregate function inside the over clause of the dense rank window function. So now coming back to the query again, what this query does is for each customer or company, it already has the number of events calculated thanks to this count of event ID and the group by statement at the end. What this window function does is it sorts this portion of the table, the first two columns, the customer ID and the events, which is a count of the event IDs, by the ascending order of the count of the event IDs. And then having done so, it assigns a dense rank to each row. So the reason I have used dense rank rather than ordinary rank is because if I use ordinary rank, in that case, if there is a tie, say for example electric gravity and eShop, both of them have the same number of events, then when you move on to the next company, which is Sendit, the ordinary rank will be 3 instead of 2. So I will have a little difficulty in finding the lowest two mobile usage companies. Let me just show you what I mean here. So if I use a normal rank instead of a dense rank, the first organization and the second organization, they both get 1 because there's a tie. But the next one, Sendit, does not get a 2, it gets a 3. But I have to find out the bottom 2. That's the reason why I have used a dense rank here. I hope you understand this query now. So the rest of this query is extremely straightforward. All I'm doing is, having built this city, I'm extracting the customer ID and the events from this city where the mobile usage rank is less than or equal to 2. So that will select the lowest 2 mobile usage companies. Let me paste this entire query and run it. And now if you look at the output, you see that we have these 3 companies, Electric Gravity, eShop and Sendit, with events 4, 4 and 7, which as you previously saw agrees with the output provided by StrataScratch. So this was not too difficult a problem. The only novel thing that we have done here is we have used a dense rank function within the city where we are also performing a group by. So the over clause of this dense rank window function is using the aggregate function count in the order by clause. That's the only novel thing here. I hope you could appreciate that. So I hope I was able to explain how I solved this problem. I shall keep coming back with solutions to more problems from StrataScratch. Please stay tuned.